Hi there, I'm Wendy and welcome to my channel where I share knitting and crochet tutorial videos for my projects and techniques. And in today's video I'm going to show you how to follow a crochet chart when making a granny square. Now I love crochet charts because with crochet charts you can follow the pattern instructions far more quickly than when you're using written pattern instructions, and it also helps you to check back on your rounds afterwards to make sure that you've worked your crochet correctly. Plus, on top of that, crochet charts are universal, so once you can understand a crochet chart in one language, you can virtually follow a crochet chart in any language that you want. So I'm going to be using some UK double knitting yarn, and the yarn I've got today is Stylecraft Special DK and a 4mm hook, but you can be using any weight of yarn you wish, just as long as you're using the correlating size crochet hook. Now this chart is going to disappear and the chart is going to literally grow stitch by stitch as we go along. So the idea is that by the end of crocheting the 3 rounds of this granny square, you'll actually be able to identify the stitches and understand the chart. I'll just add that if you're new to my channel, then don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get to hear when my new videos and updates go live. And if you've enjoyed this video, it would be lovely if you gave me a thumbs up, and do share this video with anyone that you think it will be useful to. Now this chart and my written instructions for a granny square are available as a free downloadable PDF pattern on my website, so I'm going to pop a link in the description notes to take you directly to that. And I'm going to be using UK stitches, so the only stitches that you need to know to follow along with me is how to make a chain and how to make the UK treble stitch, but I'll also put links to my other videos that show you how to make the stitches in more detail should you need it. So just before you start, this is the right-handed video, so if you're left-handed I'll pop a link in above here now and in the description notes below to take you to the left-handed video. Okay, so I'm ready to make a start, and I'm going to be using a light colour blue yarn, so that will be the same colour as the first round in the diagram. But I need to make my foundation chain to start, so if I take a look at the diagram to the side, you'll see that there's 5 little oval shapes in the shape of a circle. And each one of those oval shapes represents one chain. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to make my slip knot and to make 5 chain. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So now if you take a look at the diagram again, you'll see that there's a black spot appear. Now that black spot represents a slip stitch, which is the stitch that we'll be using for joining all the rounds that we're working in a granny square. So to make my slip stitch, I'm just going to take my hook through the first chain that we made, which is directly after the slip knot, and I'm just going to pop my hook through the side of that chain, yarn over and pull the hook through those 2 stitches. And now I've created this little ring. Okay, so now we've got this little ring, we're going to be working into that for round 1. So for round 1, the first thing you can see now appearing in the diagram is in black, and that's 3 of these chains. So it's 3 little oval shapes. So I'm just going to make 3 chain. Now you'll be making 3 chain at the beginning of every round, and that 3 chain represents your first treble stitch. So just remember, you will see this at the beginning of each round. So now after the 3 chain, you can see that there's 2 T-shapes with a diagonal line running through the stem. Now each of those T-shapes represents 1 UK treble. So I'm going to make 2 UK treble, working it into the ring. So that's my first treble, and then I'm going to work my second treble. And then now if you take a look, you can see a chain space directly afterwards. So I'm going to make that chain. Now one side of my square and this one chain space is going to be the first corner space in my round. So now taking a look at the chart, you can see that 3 trebles have now appeared, and after the third treble there is one chain space. So I'm going to make my 3 trebles directly into the ring. So that's my first, my second, and my third. And then I'm going to make one chain space. And now if I pull that chain space out that's in the middle here, you can see that I've got one side of my square here and the second side of my square here, and I've got a corner space showing in the middle. So again, taking a look at the diagram, 3 more of the treble symbols have appeared, followed by one chain space. So I'm going to do the same thing again. So that's my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble. And then we had that one chain space that appeared after that last treble, and I've just made that. So now when I take a look, I can see 3 sides of my square. I've got my first side here with a chain space, my second side is here with a chain space, and this is my third side. So now having a look at our diagram again, we can see that 3 more treble and one chain have appeared, and that's going to be the 4th side of our square. So I'm going to make that next 3 treble. But just before I start, I'm just going to hold the stitches in one hand and the ring in the other and pull them apart slightly just to open up that ring and give me a little bit more room to work into. So as the diagram shows me, there's 3 trebles, so that's my first, my second, and my third. So I've got my 3 trebles made, and I just need to make one chain as shown in the diagram. So now if you take a look at the chart, you'll see that a black dot appears, and that black dot has appeared at the top of the 3 chain we made at the beginning of the round. And that black dot represents a slip stitch, and that's where we're going to join our round together. So I'm just going to pop my hook through that 3rd chain that I made at the beginning of the round, which is here, and I'm going to join it with a slip stitch. And now I can fasten off. And if we take a look at our work, you can now see that I've got 4 sides to my square, and I've got the 3 chain that I made here at the beginning, followed by 2 trebles, and then I've got my corner space here, and then I've got 3 more trebles and my corner space, and so on. So I've got these 4 corners, and I'll just pop it down and put my fingers in the corners so that you can see. And so from here, we're now ready to change colour and work round 2. So I'm now ready to work round 2, and I'm changing colour to this pink colour so that you can see quite clearly where I'm working into. And if you take a look at the diagram, you can see where we've fastened off with our slip stitch, and then the new colour is joining in at the next corner point. So I'm just going to take my new colour and pop my hook through to join it in, and you can see that there's 3 chains appeared on the chart, and so we're going to make that 3 chain to represent our first UK treble stitch. Okay, so that's my 3 chain made, representing the first stitch of the round. So now 2 more trebles have appeared directly behind it, so we're going to work 2 trebles. Okay, so we've got our 3 chain and our 2 trebles, and now looking at the chart, you can see that a chain space has appeared, so we're going to make 1 chain. So now working in exactly the same space, exactly the same hole, you can see on the chart that there's 3 more trebles and 1 chain. Now it's quite helpful to just hold those stitches you've just made and hold the stitches in the round below and gently pull them in opposite directions just to open up that working space, and you can see quite clearly that hole. So we're going to work those 3 trebles and 1 chain in that space. So that's my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble, followed by 1 chain space. And now if you take a look at the chart, it jumps right across those 3 stitches to the next hole here, to the next corner space, and I can just pop my finger through it. So you've got 1, 2, 3 stitches, and then you've got 1 chain space. So taking a look at the chart, you can see that there's 3 treble 1 chain, and then again 3 treble 1 chain, all in that same space. So I'm jumping across these 3 trebles here, and I'm going to work 3 trebles into the next corner space. So that's 1, 2, and 3, and then make my chain. And now I'm going to make another 3 trebles and 1 chain, just like it's showing me on the chart. So that's all in exactly the same place. So that's 1, 2, and 3, followed by 1 chain. Now again, we've got 3 trebles that you can see in the chart, and we've got this 1 corner space afterwards. So the chart shows us again 3 trebles and 1 chain has appeared in this corner space twice. So we've got 3 trebles and 1 chain and 3 trebles and 1 chain, and that's turning the corner again for us. So I'm jumping across and I'm going to make my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble, followed by 1 chain. And then in exactly the same space, the same thing again. I'm making my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble, and 1 chain. And so now if we take a look, you can see that we've got 3 sides to our granny square, both in our work and on the chart. So now taking a look at the chart, you can see that 3 trebles and 1 chain has appeared twice in the next corner space. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to make those 3 UK trebles and 1 chain in the next corner. So I'm going to work my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble, and then 1 chain. And again, I'm repeating it just as the chart is showing me. So I've made my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble. So now we're nearly at the end of the round, and if you take a look at the chart, you can see that a black dot has appeared at the top of the 3 chain that you made when you started round 2. And that black dot is a slip stitch. So we're just going to join our round with a slip stitch in the top of that 3rd chain. So I'm going to pop my hook through the side of that 3rd chain and draw it all the way through. And then I can finish off, and round 2 is complete. And so now if I pop my fingers in the 4 corners here, you can see our square shape now appearing just as it is in the chart. And if we take a look, you can see that we've got our 4 corner spaces here. And we've now also got these side spaces, and you can see those on the chart as well. So we're now ready to work around 3, and we're going to be working into the corner spaces and also into these spaces along the sides. And to work round 3, I'm going to be changing over to a blue colour so that you can see exactly where I'm working into. Now, when you take a look at the chart at the end of round 2, we finished with a slip stitch to join the end to the beginning of the round. And you can see that round 3 starts at the next corner space. So I'm going to take my new yarn and pop that in, and you can now see on the chart that we've got 3 chain standing up. So I'm going to make that 3 chain. Again, that 3 chain is representing the first UK treble stitch in my round. So just like before, after that 3 chain, I have 2 trebles and 1 chain appear. So I'm going to make my 2 trebles. So that's my first, and that's my second, and that's my 1 chain. Now I've got 3 trebles and 1 chain appeared again, and so I'm going to make those 3 trebles in the corner space, and that's my second and my third, followed by that 1 chain that's shown on the chart. And so now if we take a look at our work, you can see that we've got this hole, we've got this chain space appeared along the straight edge. And if you take a look at the chart, you can now see that 3 treble and 1 chain have appeared just above that chain space. So I'm just going to work the 3 treble and 1 chain into that chain space, just as the chart has shown me. So that's my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble. And now I'm going to make my 1 chain. And so now, taking a look at the chart, you can see at the next corner we've got 3 trebles and 1 chain twice. So I'm going to work that 3 treble and 1 chain twice, just as the chart has shown me. So that's my first treble, my second treble, my third treble, and 1 chain. And so I'm just going to open up my work just like I did before. So I'm going to hold my stitches that I've just made in one hand and the stitches in the row below in the other hand, and gently pull them apart just to open up that working space and make that area a little bit bigger. And so now I'm going to make the next set of 3 trebles and 1 chain that's shown on the chart for that corner. And that's my 3 trebles made and my 1 chain. So taking a look at the chart now, you can see again that there is this chain space that's appearing along the straight edge. And when you're working into a chain space along a straight edge like that, it will show as just 1 set of 3 trebles and 1 chain. So we're going to work that 1 set of 3 trebles and 1 chain, just as the diagram is showing us. So that's my second treble and my third treble. Now my one chain. And so now you can see on your work that you're now at the next corner, and if you take a look at the chart now, you'll see that 3 treble 1 chain has appeared twice in that corner. So we're just simply going to work that 3 treble and 1 chain twice. So that's my first treble, my second treble, my third treble, and 1 chain. And then the same thing again, my next set of 3 trebles and 1 chain. So that's my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble, and my 1 chain. So taking a look at your work, you can see that you've now worked 3 corners of your granny square, and taking a look at the chart, you can see that you've worked 3 corners of your granny square as well. So now when you take a look at your work, you can see you've got a chain space along that straight edge. And if you take a look at the chart, you can see that where that chain space is, 3 treble and 1 chain is going to appear. So you quite simply work your 3 trebles and 1 chain into that chain space. So that's my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble, followed by 1 chain. So now when you take a look at your work, you can see that you're approaching the corner space, and if you compare that to the chart, you can see that that's exactly the same as well. So now on the chart, if you take a look, there's 3 treble 1 chain appearing twice in that corner space. So we're going to work that onto our granny square. So that's my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble, followed by 1 chain. And again, my first treble, my second treble, and my third treble, and 1 chain. So now we've worked all 4 corners of the third round of our granny square. So we've got our first corner, our second corner, our third corner, and our fourth corner. And we're just working along the straight edge to take us back to finish off the round of our granny square. So when you take a look on your work on this straight edge, you can see that you've got a chain space in the middle here. And if you take a look at your chart, you'll see that chain space appearing along the straight edge of your chart as well. So now in that chain space just appeared is 3 trebles and 1 chain. So we're going to work that 3 trebles and 1 chain into our granny square. So that's our first treble, our second treble, and our third treble. Followed by our 1 chain. And that's our third round almost complete. And just like before, you'll see a black dot appear at the top of the 3 chain, and that's simply so that you can join with a slip stitch. So I'm just going to join with the slip stitch and finish off the round. So now I'm ready to just cut my yarn and fasten off, and we can take a look at this granny square and compare it to the chart. So now you've made that granny square, you can compare that to the complete chart, and you should be able to identify the stitches that you've just made. You should be able to see the 3 chain that you made at the beginning of each round to represent that first stitch. you should be able to see the 2 sets of 3 trebles and 1 chain that created that 45-degree angle, and you should be able to see the sets of 3 treble and 1 chain that you made once going along the straight edge in round 3. So I hope by following along with me making this granny square as the chart appears at the same time has made it easier for you to understand how to read a granny square chart. And the great thing is that once you can read a chart, it makes it a lot quicker to follow a pattern, and it also means that you can check back on your work and check that you've worked your round or your rows correctly. Plus, the great thing about charts is that they're universal. So once you can read a chart, you can read a crochet pattern in any language. So again, I hope you found it useful, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy your crochet. So for now, take care, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!